peace that surpasses all understanding. This is kind of, yeah, not kind of, it is a continuation of sex, sexuality, manifestation, etc. And I've been pondering and going deeper, and I wanted to, there were certain aspects that were cropping up. And as I was driving, I remembered an experience I had. Um, Actually, in one, two, three, I traveled throughout the Caribbean quite a bit, and the resorts or places that I stayed had several of them had a clothing optional on the beach. Clothing was optional, so if you wanted to go on the beach nude, you could, or whatever. And I remember the first time that I experienced that, um, going to, and it was in the Dominican Republic. Um, it was in the Dominican Republic, and when we showed up, it was like, oh, this is this is a little bit different. I was with my first wife at the time, and it was definitely like, like stepping into the twilight zone a little bit, and every type of person, and I'd say, half and half the people engaged in the, nude beach, and it was all the same beach. There was no differentiation. um, all the beaches, all the resorts were clothing optional, and there was a certain novelty to it. I didn't particularly find myself getting titillated or aroused by seeing, uh, in my particular, I'm a guy. I didn't particularly get aroused by seeing naked women, um, but there was a novelty to it, and especially in particular in the United States. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of additional stigma attached with nudity and sexuality, where in other cultures, um, it's much less, it's less provocative. It's not provocative to be naked, you know, um, or partially clothed, or um, and I remember as a kid, as a little kid, even given my experience with you know sexual trauma growing up as a kid, I remember as a kid, man, any spare time I had that I didn't have to have clothes on, I was running around naked. Um, it just it felt more natural to me. I wasn't an exhibitionist. It was just merely a question of my own comfort. I felt comfortable being naked. I didn't see there was, as a kid, I didn't see any distortion surrounding it, but going to this experience in the Caribbean on this clothing optional beach, I was with my first wife, and there was, we talked about it, and there was some discussion and some humor, and getting past our hang-ups. Now, my first former wife, she had experienced sexual trauma and violence, and in her lifetime, and it was very interesting because she was the one that actually came up with the idea. Well, let's try it. I'm going to try it, and it was initially for her. Um, Many, high majority of the women were topless, and she wanted to see what that felt like. It wasn't people ogling at one another. We had these ideas. At least I've people that I've encountered, and there's a campground, Maine, is vacation land, a lot of camping up here, and I'm thinking of this one particular campground it's a nudist campground, and there's a lot of jokes made about it, that kind of thing. Um, But it was actually my wife who had the idea. I want to see what this. I want to understand this, and to her credit, um, I didn't feel threatened at all, and she sunbathed for the day. Now, ladies, if you've never done that, you got to use, especially if you're down in the Caribbean, man, that sun is brutal. And she got a little crispy up top, and I don't mean just her breast, but her nipples got burnt, and that was very uncomfortable for her. So use protection. A little bit of humor, but from an emotional standpoint, um, to see her step out, I was like, yeah, whatever, man, whatever, and um, I took off my bathing trunks, and and she took off her bottoms, and we were nude for a day, and after that initial the word that keeps coming to mind, the initial novelty of the experience. After that, it was very natural. It was very natural. Um, and again, it wasn't like people were staring at us or we were staring at other people. It became a non-issue, complete non-issue. Um, but I think the way that this is going to work out, like I'm out and about doing my errands for the day, whatever. But I wanted to address that. I didn't want to let that experience go by the wayside, and I may elaborate more, but I'm going to pause now. I do have errands to run. I wanted to capture that thought though. So we'll continue. I'm going to pause.